The sea had forgotten its wind. For 3 days, the Providence, a merchant brig, had drifted somewhere in the Bay of Biscay. Her sails hung like dead cloth, her ropes stiff with salt. The world beyond the rails was nothing but fog, white, endless, and close as breath. Back at the docks, the captain swore we'd made Plymouth by Easter. Now, his face hung with doubt and shame. It was bad luck, some sailors said, to boast such a claim. The sea might overhear and take offense. It was a lousy superstition, perhaps, yet hard to deny in that stillness. I had paid for passage among barrels of wine and wool. The captain claimed to know every star from here to the channel. Now the stars were gone. The compass, useless. Its needle quivered and turned downward, as if drawn to something unseen beneath the waves. No one on board could explain this strange phenomenon, save for this. They said the bay had a mouth, and we have drifted into it. 1781, Bay of Biscay, the Deadlight Lantern, a tale from the Book of Silas Crowe. The fog thickened. The lanterns along the decks showed nothing beyond their own small circles of gold. The waves hissed and swayed, yet the Providence moved nowhere. Raven wouldn't stop croaking. "Feed, feed," he croaked, as if blaming me for our situation. A few limp heads turned. "Would you shut that damn bird?" shouted one of them. I moved away to the back of the brig. "If you don't quiet down," I said, my stomach groaning, "you'll be the meal. Everyone here is hungry, Raven." Raven looked back at the crew slumped against the bulwark and went silent. "You're the one insisting we cross," I said. "I owe you no supper." He let out a sharp, mocking croak and flew away to who knows where. I wasn't oblivious about the gruesome tales of nautical survival, about the last resort of hunger at sea. I shook my head and chuckled. We're not even in the open sea yet," I muttered. "Light off the starboard bow!" cried the lookout. I didn't even know there was still someone on the crow's nest. The crew, although listless, rushed to the rail, squinting into the murk. A dull green shimmer bobbed with the waves. "Ready the lines," the captain ordered. "Steady now." As the ship drew near, the fog revealed it, a small boat drifting about. Inside slumped a man, pale as wax, head lolled back, facing the night sky. In his clenched hand hung a brass lantern, its spectral light pulsating like a heartbeat. The first mate made the sign of the cross. The captain removed his hat. One by one, the others followed, each with their own gesture of solemnity. "Bring it here," the captain nodded. 2 sailors climbed down with the line and pried the lantern from the dead man's grip. The handle came loose with a sound like wet leather. They pushed the boat away, and it drifted off, fading into the fog like a dream sent back to sea. When they handed the lantern to the captain, he lifted it and squinted through the misted glass. The greenish light pulsed against his weathered face. He turned toward the other lamps, as if to make sure of the supposed color of the flame. "What is it, Captain?" the first mate asked. "No idea," the captain muttered. He turned and walked toward the helm, the strange light trembling in his hand. Finding an empty iron hook beside the wheel, he hung the lantern there. Its pallid glow spilled over the deck, washing every face in shades of green. I watched in silence. Such recklessness. He who departs from the ways of prudence will slip in the assembly of the shadows. Strange lights, in my experience, seldom let men home. By the next morning, the fog had turned the deck slick and gray. The smell of wet rope and spoiled tallow clung to the air. I sat near the foremast with what passed for breakfast. 2 crumbs of hardtack and a strip of salt pork tough as hide. The meat had long lost its flavor, but I forced it down all the same. A pair of talons landed on my shoulder, forcing a scoff out of me. The moment there's food, you return to me. I broke off a corner for him. Or are you here to remind me it's not enough for 2? Raven tilted his head and took the piece with a snap of his beak. Oh, you're not going to fly up again? I drawled. Mighty kind of you. Behind us, voices murmured low. The casks are near empty, whispered one of the crew. Another 3 days, maybe 4. If we stretch a lot, we can't just stay here. Without the wind, the first mate said, we're not going anywhere. I turned and saw the first mate nodding and rubbing his jaw. He looked toward the helm, toward the green glow that burned through the fog. What a peculiar glow, he said. Did anybody change the oil? What makes the flame burn green like that? The man turned, following his gaze. No one, sir. No one comes near it but the captain. If no one did, it should have gone out by dawn. The first mate muttered. Strange indeed. He walked toward the helm, boots thudding against the sleek deck. The lantern's glow deepened as he neared, green light crawling over his hands. He was about to speak to the captain when the captain pointed forward in awe. There. The captain outstretched his arm. Through the shifting fog, a single pale orb of hazy green light shimmered above the waves. Small, distant, moving against the tide. It pulsated, as if answering the one at our helm. Another vessel? Someone whispered. A second appeared behind it, not far. Then a third. Each one hovered a little higher, a little farther out. They seemed scattered, but if one paid close attention, one would conclude they were deliberate, arranged into a crooked line across the water. The men crowded the starboard rail, their faces awash in green. The sea below was black glass, and the orbs glimmered upon it like a procession of lost souls. Will of the wisp? Murmured the first mate. No one answered him. The fog seemed to breathe. It drew closer. The orbs pulsed in time until a pattern emerged, a trail of cold fire vanishing into the dark. They're pointing somewhere like the stars, the captain said. The current, or land. He turned to his first mate with a wavering grin. Or perhaps, treasures. He tapped the brass lantern hanging by the hook. This lantern is our salvation. A breath of wind stirred the sails, and the bow parted the fog. Wind! Someone shouted. Another took it up, another, until the deck rang with cheering shouts. The Providence shuddered and began to move, her canvas feeling like lungs after drowning. The green light at the helm pulsed bright like a blessing. The captain grinned, one hand on the wheel. What did I tell you, lads? He said. The sea remembers her friends. She sends us these guiding lights. Raven stirred on my shoulder, feathers bristling. Do not follow it. I rose and approached them. It's not right. You have a better idea, said the captain. He turned to his crew. Follow them. Blow ye wind and carry me home, to land and shore and spire and stone. The sea may take, the sea may give, so long as I breathe, let my sails be swift. Raven and I watched from the quarterdeck, apart from the singing. Their laughter rose with the wind, thin and brittle, like something borrowed. Toward the helm, the captain stood near the lantern, face lit by the pale, deceitful flame. Faith, I murmured, is a fine thing until it blinds the eyes. Raven laughed. If your eyes are diseased, your whole body will be full of darkness. I quoted Matthew. If then the light in you is darkness, how great is that darkness? Raven gave a low, uneasy croak. I followed his gaze to the sea. The orbs hovered still, their glow steady now, aligned as though by unseen hands. One of them drifted nearer, pulsing, as if it had heard me. A chill ran down my spine. Souls, I whispered. That's what men say they are. Wandering spirits, the dead, looking for the shore they'll never find. Raven ruffled his feathers and turned his face from the glow. I looked away. But if they're souls, I said, what is it they seek? The lantern? What is their intention? A memory came flashing. The image of a clutched hand, of a dead man on a boat too small to be adrift this far. A sole survivor. Of what? Where is the rest of his crew? The Providence pressed on, her bow parting the fog like a knife through cloth. The air thickened with salt and the faint hiss of water rushing against the hull, where there was a pulsating trail of floating lights braving the fog at the front. When I looked back, there was only the darkness of night. The orbs were leading us to something I could not guess. A ship! The lookout cried from the crow's nest. No! Ships! By the lights, cried the captain. We must have found the true course again. We're saved! The first mate exclaimed. Onward to Plymouth! Something fast took shape ahead. At first I thought it a trick of the eyes, shadows in the vapor, illusions born of hunger and hope. But the shapes grew sharper as the Providence advanced. Mast, rigging, whole ships by the dozen. Their outlines were as plain as smoke, yet irrefutable, as real as the night, the fog, and the sea. The crew surged to the rails. Their cheers overflowed into euphoria. Even my hope was about to soar when I noticed that the ships didn't move. Something's not right, I said. They're dead in the water. My warning, however, drowned in their jubilant singing. Raven croaked and fluttered his wings without avail. I peered again at the ships, looking for movement on those decks, and found none. The fog rolled over their hulls as though the world had forgotten they existed. Raven dug his claws into my shoulder, uneasy. He saw it too. When we were close enough, the captain raised the pale lantern high, its sickly glow reflecting across the ghostless ships. Only then did the singing die, and fear usurped their faces. Signal them, the captain barked. Aye, captain, replied the first mate. 2 lights to port. Aye, shouted the crew, and 2 men hauled the lanterns high on the lines. No answer came from the other side. Let's get closer to them. The moment the captain said it, the wind that had carried us began to falter. The sails shuddered once and stilled, limp as shrouds. A hush swept the deck. Every man turned his face upward, waiting for the next breath of air that never came. The ropes hung dead, the flags drooped. Even the waves seemed to forget their motion, as still as a mirror. The Providence drifted no more. It was as if the sea itself had drawn one last breath and held it. Wind's gone, someone whispered. I looked at the lantern in the captain's hand. Its pale light burned steady, unbothered, as though mocking the sudden stillness. Raven let out a hollow croak. The captain gripped the wheel, jaw tight. Hold fast, he muttered. It'll return. The first mate's voice cracked the silence. Where are they? The orbs! Heads turned. The men craned their necks toward the dark. The horizon was clean of light. The trail that had led them through the fog was gone. I moved to the rail. The sea below was a sheet of ink, but I glimpsed faint green sparks sinking one by one into the depths. Their glow dimmed with each pulse until they vanished altogether. If the devil disguises himself as an angel of light, I thought of the scripture, his servants can easily disguise themselves as ministers of salvation. I turned toward the helm. They're not guiding lights. Raven croaked, his voice aroused in the still air. They are bait. The captain's countenance hardened. Desperation ruled his features like a sickness. Hunger and thirst were too consuming. Fear too oppressive. Bait? He spat. Without those lights, we'll still be adrift. The lights brought the wind back. Don't you see? Without the wind, we're as good as dead. It's a lure from whatever waited down there in the very depths, for doomed ships to hit its call. I waved my hand toward the darkness. I saw the lights descend. Lights! The captain roared. The sea hungers, I said, and it sent you that cursed lantern. He glared at me, jaw clenched. Then what do you suggest, drifter? Wanderer, I said. Please. Answer me, the captain barked. The false flame must be quenched. I pointed at it. The captain guarded the lantern with his hand. The green light painted his pale face, hollowing his eyes. Those were no longer the eyes of a sane man. The sea had maddened him. The lantern had possessed him. I took a step forward. Raven flew from my shoulder, sensing my intention. I had no choice. I charged toward the helm, hoping to seize the lantern from the madman. Seize him! The captain roared. Half of the crew obeyed. The rest stayed their hands. They grabbed my coat. Ropes followed. Raven shrieked, wings beating wildly as I struggled, but the men were too starved to think. They dragged me across the slick deck and lashed me tight to the mainmast. The ropes bit into my wrists. The lantern's green pulse throbbed in rhythm with my heart. Days bled together. The fog didn't lift. The air grew heavier, rank with sweat, tar, and despair. The men stopped speaking unless to curse the sea or whisper prayers for the wind that never came. The crew had just consumed the last of the food. The water was as foul as metal. The captain never left the helm. He guarded the lantern like a saint at vigil, its green pallor sinking deep into his skin each day. His eyes had taken on its hue. He slept standing, one hand upon the wheel, the other cradling the brass casing as if it were his heart. Perhaps the drifter was right. It was the hoarse voice of the first mate. Perhaps light is no blessing. No one dared look toward the captain, but they all heard the tremor in the man's voice. The captain turned his gaunt face. You damn us all for losing faith. Faith in what? The first mate asked. That thing hasn't dimmed for days. No oil, no wick, no wind, Captain. Look around you. We've not moved a yard. It only led us to where it wants us to be. The captain's hand twitched toward his pistol, but his strength failed him. He swayed, muttering something. When he dropped to his knees, the mate seized his chance. Forgive me, Captain, he whispered and tore the lantern from the hook. The crew watched as he twisted the latch open and choked the light with a scrap of wet cloth. When he pulled back, however, the flame refused to die. He tried again, yet the green light persisted. As a last resort, he slammed the lantern against the deck. The brass dented, but the flame did not even flicker. What? The first mate gasped and turned to me. What now? A low hum rolled through the planks beneath their feet, like something vast had stirred below. Stop! The captain croaked. You'll anger it. The first mate backed away, pale, shaking, and fell on his knees. I couldn't help but laugh. A dry, mirthless sound that startled even me. The crew turned their gaunt faces toward me. The first mate's eyes narrowed. Oh, that's so funny, drifter. I shook my head. Nothing. Only that I've seen this before. Light that deceives. Flame that promises deliverance but devours instead. A counterfeit flame. They watched in silence as I lowered my gaze to the broken lantern. The green flame pulsed as if amused, its shimmer spilling across the deck. I knew what I must do. The curse wasn't bound to the ship, but to the light and whoever dared touch it. "Release me," I said. The first mate paused for a second, but his exhausted eyes dimmed with understanding. He had no other choice. He drew his knife and cut the ropes loose. I stepped forward, the sea stillness pressed against my ears. Raven landed upon the rail, pecking his sleek feathers. What I was about to do was nothing new for him. I crouched before the shuttered lantern. The green fire hissed and flared, reaching toward me like a living thing. I could almost hear a whisper beneath its glow, the promise of calm, the murmur of waves that never reached the shore. "I know what you are," I said, "and I'll carry you to the end." I drew a breath and pulled the flame into myself. To the gasps of those who watch, it burned not like flame, but like ice that seared through bone, hot and cold at once, salt and ash, bitter. The world blurred, the fog folded inward, and the deck rose to meet me. The last thing I saw was Raven's dark shape above me, wings wide, his cry swallowed by the endless sea. I woke to the rhythm of the sea, not the stillness of the days before, but the gentle lapping of waves against wood. The air was clear. The light spilled through the cabin window, soft and gold. A shape stirred nearby. One of the crew sat by the door, eyes wide with disbelief. When he saw me stir, he stumbled to his feet and fled without a word. Outside, muffled voices rose, hurried, trembling. Moments later, the first mate entered. His face broke into a smile too bright for the room. "You're awake," he almost laughed. I pushed myself up, winching. "Evidently so. Where's my Raven?" "Perched by the helm," he replied. "Hasn't left since." He hesitated. "Are you strong enough to stand?" I nodded, and he helped me to my feet. My legs were unsteady, but the air was lighter than it had been in days. "Come and see," he said. We stepped out onto the deck. The fog was gone. The sky stretched white and blue. Sunlight danced across the waves. It was a simple thing that made the men weep. "To Plymouth!" cried one of them, and laughter followed. The first mate turned to me, his voice softer now. "How did you do it?" he asked. "Who are you, Drifter?" I looked toward the horizon. "I told you before," I said. "A wanderer." A younger sailor, his face hollow with awe, stepped forward. "You are a savior," he said. "Our salvation." I shook my head. "No, God is your savior, and but his tool." Raven gave a soft croak, an approval. The sea breeze blew the sails. The Providence advanced faster, away from the devouring maw of the Bay of Biscay. Behind us, far astern, thin mist hung over the horizon. Deep beneath it, just for a moment, I thought I saw a faint green flicker. It pulsed once, and no more. Please like, comment, and subscribe for more tales from the Book of Silas Crowe. Until next time.